Almost all studio recording nowadays, in fact, ever since the advent of multitrack recording, involves the use of a headphone monitor mix. Even if a band or ensemble is playing live in the studio, they're probably baffled off and partially isolated from each other, so they're going to have to depend on the engineer supplying them with a good blend of the instruments and voices in headphones, since the actual blend in the room won't give them what they need. And most vocal sessions lay down the voices in overdub, with the singer out in the room or booth, alone, singing against the already recorded tracks to a blend of those tracks and their own voice in their own headphone monitor mix. This mix is so important, since every note that's sung and every performance gesture and musical reaction the singer makes depends on what they hear in that mix in the headphones. And yet, very often, this all-important aspect of the vocal session is really given short shrift, and even though it may not be that obvious, that can be one of the biggest mistakes you could make when setting up for a recording. Sometimes, in the hustle and bustle of all that pre-section activity I described in the last video, the engineer feels a little bit under the gun, and to speed things along, he may just grab the same mix he's hearing in the control room and route it to the singer's headphones. Of course, this isn't going to work. Not only will the singer most likely need a different blend of elements to do their best work, but if the engineer starts soloing tracks or making technical tweaks, as he might need to, while a take is going down, the singer will hear that, and probably be distracted enough to just stop cold. Of course, the vocalist's cue mix has to be fed from pre-fader sends in the mixer, real or virtual, so the blend of tracks can be set independently of whatever the engineer and producer are listening to, and so the singer's mix won't be affected by any technical tweaks made to the control room mix during recording. I won't get into the details of how to set up the routing here. You can quickly check any of our courses on signal flow for that. I'm just going to focus on little mistakes in setting up and running the performer's monitor mix that might have a big negative impact on the performance. First off, I think most recordists already know this, but I'll mention it anyway. The headphones used for monitoring during a vocal recording need to be a closed-ear design. Those are usually the heavier ones with the ear cups that cover and seal the ears completely. They should effectively isolate the singer from hearing the sound in the room and also prevent sound from the monitor mix from leaking out into the room. For vocal recording, this last feature is key. That familiar tsk-tsk-tsk of headphone leakage can be a deal breaker. That little sound leaking out of open-ear headphones can be enough to ruin a take when it's picked up by a sensitive vocal mic in the studio during recording. This high-frequency leakage might often be heard clearly even while the singer is singing, and then it can't be gated out. And trying to filter it will be likely to compromise the tone of the voice. So it really needs to be avoided at the source, and that means, of course, closed earphones. In fact, even if you do properly choose a closed-ear design, sometimes the singer can trip you up by turning one ear cup around so they can hear a combination of their own voice acoustically in the room and the backing track in the other ear cup. They do this because many vocalists, especially ones less experienced at recording with headphone monitoring, may have a little trouble with pitch, hearing their voice just in the phones. Singers often subconsciously depend on hearing the sound of their own voice directly, both acoustically in the room and within their head, to maintain good pitch. And if the phones drown these subconscious clues out, they can go off a bit. So you have to keep an eye out for this. If you see that a singer has turned one ear cup, you'll need to kill all sound to that side of the monitor mix so it won't get into the mic and ruin the take before you even realize it's happening. When it comes to the blend of elements itself in the performer's monitor mix, there are a number of things to watch out for. One mistake you can make, which may not even seem like a mistake, is to give the singer exactly what he or she asks for that blend. Now, of course, most singers know that they'll need to hear more of this or less of that to help them cue off certain musical parts with their timing, pitch, and phrasing. So naturally, you'll want to follow their guidelines when doing the basic mix for their phones. But then you get into a very key aspect. How loud should their own voice be against the backing track? This can be an issue with instruments as well, but it's especially important for vocals. Most vocalists will have a preference for this, though those preferences can differ quite a bit. But this is a case where the singer himself might not be the best judge of what the optimal balance should be. Some singers may like to hear a lot of their own voice well above the backing track, but at their preferred level, they may not be able to hear the track well enough to realize that they're going a little off pitch, or slightly off rhythm. The opposite blend can also have similar problems, and in either case, the engineer may have to alter that balance to get the performer back on target, and it's up to the producer to smooth over that change if the singer notices and complains. In fact, some producers use that voice versus track balance as a tool to push a singer into a more intense performance. Even if their pitch and timing is fine, Sometimes a vocalist may be holding back a bit if their voice is, at their own request, already so much louder than the track that there's no need for them to push. But the producer may want that edgier vocal quality that comes from the singer's straining to cut through an aggressive backing track, and may nudge the singer toward that by quietly and gradually reducing the relative level of the vocal in the monitor mix, forcing the singer to push a little harder. This trick can work well, as long as you don't overdo it and make the singer blow out her voice too quickly. Another aspect of the monitor mix that I touched on last time, but I'll reiterate, is whether to apply a little compression to the live vocal that the singer hears in his phones. This can be a good strategy to keep a vocalist who's more used to live performance from pulling back from the mic on loud notes and phrases as would be done on stage when he hears those loud notes coming at him in the headphones. Since that can compromise tone with a studio mic, giving the vocalist a more controlled monitor level for his own voice may free him up to let loose on the more intense passages without instinctively pulling back or holding back. But the compression, even if you don't print it, should be subtle. No more than about 2 or 3 dB of gain reduction would be a safe bet. Sometimes I've noticed a recordist giving a singer a headphone feed with a bone-dry vocal.
I want to believe that you're there for me, but that doesn't match the reality.
Now that may in fact be appropriate for some musical styles, but for most singers it would be a mistake not to add a little ambience or reverb to the vocal in the monitor mix. This is especially true if the singer is in a very dry vocal booth and there isn't even any ambience in the mic itself. Not only will a voice that's unsupported by ambience or reverb sound weaker, but it'll be harder for the vocalist to produce good tone. However, many vocalists may request a ton of reverb on their voices, and once again, you might need to resist giving them exactly what they want in favor of what they need. A huge amount of reverb in the cans, as enveloping and seductive as that may be for the performer, can, just like too much vocal level in the mix, tend to make the singer go off pitch a bit without even realizing it.
I want to believe that you're there for me, but that doesn't match the reality.
Again, it's up to the engineer and producer to find the ideal balance, one that will coax the best performance out of the singer while still keeping her happy.
I want to believe that you're there for me, but that doesn't match the reality.
One last thing. You need to be sure that there isn't any weird or distracting sound in the headphone mix, like buzzing or latency or room leakage from a defective, poorly sealing ear cup. While you can check the monitor mix itself right from the control room with the push of a button, you won't know if that's really what the singer is hearing unless you actually go out into the recording space, put the headphones on, and listen for yourself. Maybe I should have put this one first. I can't stress how important this is, or how many times I've picked up on subtle but potentially serious problems I never would have been aware of if I hadn't done this simple check, even if it took me away from other tasks for a few minutes. So, don't fall into the trap of glossing over the monitor mix. It's a critical component of any vocal session and needs to be given its proper due.